Welcome back to From the Cheap Seats on the Horn Takes podcast, the internet show all about Texas football. We'll talk a little bit more than just Texas football tonight with my man Hardball Harge from AM 1300 The Zone. Harge, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. As always, it's always a pleasure talking to you, bro.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us. Find us on the socials. You can find Harge right there at the bottom of the screen at Hardball Harge. You can find us at Horn Takes on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We really appreciate all the support you guys give us. If you like seeds, go choose some seeds. Use promo code Horn Takes. I don't know why I can't say code. I've messed that up like 3 shows in a row. I think it's because there's an R in horn.
Yeah.
Use promo code Horn Takes at ChinookSeedery.com on your next order. Get 10% off. Chew the hell out of those seeds. Have them on us. Have a 10% discount on us. Harge. Man, lots of stuff to talk about this week. A whole lot of stuff with Texas sports going on just the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But let's start out with those Lady Horns. They advanced to the Final Four for the first time in over 20 years. I think I saw, and I'm probably wrong, but I think I saw the last time they've advanced to the Final Four was 2003. Is that right?
Correct. That is correct.
And I got something right for once. That's big time.
Yeah.
So really good game against TCU. Actually, y'all know I'm not a big basketball guy. I don't know. I don't vibe with basketball as much as baseball and football, but I actually watched this game. It's one of the only 2 Lady Horn games I've watched completely throughout. And man, it was an exciting game. Harge, they were playing some really, really good defense against TCU, but I thought early on, I didn't think they might be able to score enough. They kind of struggled in the first half, getting the pill in the basket, so to speak. Tell us about that game, Harge. What did you see? What did you think about that game? We'll get to that a little bit. Tell us about the TCU game, Harge.
Well, the thing that I was impressed with, and this is something that is a calling card of the University of Texas and always has been the calling card since Vic Schaefer got here 5 years ago. And by the way, this is the 4th time that they made it to the Elite 8 in his 5 years. So he's definitely arrived and brought some tenacity to the University of Texas. But the calling card for Vic Schaefer is his defense. We got a chance to interview him back in the day when he first got here, and he said his job is to make sure that people understand I'm gonna guard you from the as soon as you enter town to when you leave town, and that's exactly what he's been able to do. He goes out and he gets the players that are going to believe and buy in to his system. And you got a Madison Booker, who obviously is one of the top players in the country. You go and get a star point guard in Rory Harmon, and then you start filling in all those pieces around him. And the ability to lead people is something that is, I don't know if it's truly understated, because everybody always talks about talent, right? But everybody has talent. I mean, when you get to this level, everybody has talent. It's the ability to have people buy into what your expectations are and your culture for them to be able to deliver that. And what he's been able to achieve in such a very short period of time is nothing short of impressive. I mean, you can go out and get different players, and obviously a lot of people use the transfer portal, and he used it and selectively used the transfer portal in what was important to him and the expectations of the program. So that game against TCU, you were talking about, you alluded to the fact that it looked like it was going to be tough for Texas to score. But the problem was TCU was not going to score.
Yeah.
So eventually, when you have the best player in the country in Madison Booker, and I say that selfishly, obviously Juju won the Naismith Award for the best player, but you start looking at how this team understands each and every role. That is something that you have to have those types of players, because as well as I do, every single player that is playing at a major D1 school was the key player at their school growing up in high school and everything. So being able to understand that you're a secondary complementary role to this team and be able to execute it. I mean, Vic has done an unbelievable job with that.
Yeah, you can definitely tell there is something going on with the culture with that ladies basketball team. Again, I have not seen very much ladies basketball at all, and just the few interviews I've seen with Vic Schaefer, you can tell he's really bought into those girls, and those girls are really bought into him, and they're playing for each other. You mentioned Booker, man, she is just really athletic. I mean, she all those girls are moving, right? But when she
Yep.
gets the ball and decides she's going somewhere, like it is quick and it is athletic. It is powerful. Really good basketball player. We're here with Mike Hardball Harge from AM 1300 The Zone. We're talking Lady Horns basketball. Check us out in the chat if you're watching us tonight. Drop your questions, drop your comments in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those things. You mentioned the great defense. I think they had 3 5-second clock violations. Is it a 5-second clock in basketball where they got to get it inbound?
Yeah.
The rules. That's how much.
Yeah.
But man, I think that's pretty solid, man. That's like that's just domination, right? If they can't even get the ball in to even start doing anything, they can't even get it in to even attempt to go against your press. That's pretty smothering stuff. And to your point, that's where they make their hay. They took the ball away a lot from TCU.
Yep.
They
Forced 11 turnovers, I believe. In the ball
I mean, it was really an interesting game to watch because they weren't scoring a ton, but they just were so smothering on defense. You just almost kind of got the sense that there was no way. TCU would have to go on kind of like a historic run at some point to win that game. Now they did towards the end of the half. At one point, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I feel like Texas was up pretty good, maybe double digits there towards the end of the second quarter. And TCU did make a run, got it pretty close at halftime. And then again, the Texas defense just smothers TCU out. Van Lith for TCU, really good player. She was all over the court making things happen, and it was a really fun game to watch. I was pleasantly surprised at how entertained I was by that game. Now they go into the Final Four with their fourth matchup against South Carolina this year, and South Carolina has been an interesting one. They're 1-2 against South Carolina this year. They have a pretty close win against South Carolina and then a couple of pretty rough outings against this South Carolina team. The last one coming in the SEC, I believe it was the SEC championship game, which was the other time I've watched the ladies play basketball this year. And that one was pretty interesting too, because for a long time it was like a 2-point game. And then all of a sudden South Carolina just explodes. And that Texas offense just doesn't seem to have enough to get back in it. I was talking to Zay. I was filling in for Chip on Texas Sports Unfiltered a couple weeks ago. We kind of talked about the Lady Horns basketball, and Zay mentioned that the Texas offense really not good at shooting threes. And so what we'll see, and I kind of saw it with that TCU defense, they played off that 3-point line and just kind of dared them to get around them because they knew they weren't going to hit a lot of threes. South Carolina, obviously, a really athletic team, really good team. They'll probably employ the same thing. What do you feel like this Texas Lady Horns team needs to do in the game Friday night, 6 p.m., I believe, right? Same time the baseball boys are going just about.
Yeah.
What do they got to do to stay in this game and have a chance to win and advance to the national championship?
Not miss bunnies. I mean, that if you go back and watch both of these matchups, they were missing easy shots. You talk about them not shooting threes. They don't have to shoot a lot of threes because they can get the shots that they want, and they force you out of character. And, looking at this game, I was at the South Carolina game at home when Texas beat them, and Texas got everything to go their way. They played hard. They did everything that was expected of them. The game at South Carolina, that game was a rough game because Texas got every shot that they wanted. Every shot that they wanted, they got. They just missed.
Just couldn't put them down.
Those are the things that are crucial to the success of this Texas basketball team. They've done it all year. They've been in these moments. They have the athleticism. They have the matchup ability per player. And you were talking about the press and what you got a chance to see. The most impressive part about me watching this team is the fact that they can press you even with their bigs.
Mm-hmm.
Texas bigs are good defensively in the open court, which is rare when you have bigs that most of them aren't as agile. You know, Kyle Oldacre with the coast to coast
Yeah.
play with the steal. Taylor Jones, if you've been watching the games, you see as soon as the ball goes in the basket, she's on a dead sprint.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't, or on a miss, she's on a dead sprint. But on a make, she's in the press coverage as well. So I mean, it's been fun to watch this basketball team and the energy that they bring. But the biggest thing you asked what's going to be the key, and it's when you get those open shots, you can't miss them because most of
Mm-hmm.
the time, a good team, back-to-back national champion like South Carolina, they find a way to make your misses pay because they'll come down and get a make.
Yeah, and I think, you talked about them winning back-to-back national championships. That's got to be a huge sort of safety blanket, safety net, whatever you want to call it, in their pocket in terms of confidence. And I mean, they've been there, they've done it. Nothing's going to rattle them. So you're going to have to find a way to rattle them a little bit. You're going to have to
Right.
find a way to make them. I mean, they've been kicking everybody's ass. Let's just be real about it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find a way to give them something to worry about. And to your point, I think that's exactly what you said. When you do get those shots, you got to put them down. You got to keep that press on. And man, it is fun to watch. It's really interesting to watch how much they hustle. I mean, they never stop. It's kind of like, Shaka Smart, when he came to Texas, everybody was excited about Havoc and all that. And we never really saw it. We saw it a little bit. We never really saw it to the extent that I think most Texas fans thought we would. Man, Vic Schaefer's got havoc going on with these girls. They are just, I mean, they are nonstop from the second the ball gets tipped to the end of the game. They don't stop. And you're right. The bigs are fun to watch because you don't really see that a lot in basketball.
Right.
Generally, you see the bigs just kind of
half
struggle
court
to get up and
back
down
to
the court.
end. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes to the conditioning and the mindset of what Vic is demanding of his players. And they've been able to handle all the adversity and all the challenges that have been put in front of them. So I've been very impressed with what I've seen from this team. They're in the Final Four, taking on South Carolina, defending two-time champion, and a team that they've had some really good battles with. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So looking ahead to Friday night, 6:00 tip off. What do you think is going to happen in this one, Harge? And if those Lady Horns can take it Friday night, I mean, so we talked back during football season about that Cotton Bowl kind of being a de facto national championship with Ohio State and Texas. I think most people pretty much thought those were the two best teams, and kind of whoever got out of that game was going to win the national championship. Did you get the same kind of vibe with this? I know UConn, another really storied women's program.
I was going to say, hell no, because I'm a big fan of Paige Beckers. If you listen to the morning kickoff, Mark always gives me a hard time about how much I've been impressed with Paige Beckers. And Paige Beckers was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. She was the one that was the top player. So I look at this as, 1 versus 1, obviously, and the expectations of Texas getting to this point, what Vic has been able to do. But you can't say it's the de facto, because on that other side, you got Gino Ariema, who has been to 24 Final Fours in his career. And you're like, oh, damn, that's a lot of Final Fours.
That is a lot of Final Fours. That's really impressive. Yeah, so fair enough. I mean, I think you look at the women's basketball tournament. I was having a conversation with Mark Pena a couple of weeks ago. We were kind of talking about just the way the tournaments had started. And I didn't really realize this, but it makes sense. There's really about probably 8 to 10 women's teams that are kind of the cream above the crop. The rest of the group,
and they're here right now. And they're here right now.
Right, exactly. All of them are in it. There hasn't been any upsets. Like, you're gonna have to earn it, in other words, to cut down the nets for the national championship. So, we'll be rooting on the ladies Friday night, 6:00. I tried to talk Mark into bringing his little TV speaker thing out there to left field. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, root on the Lady Horns Friday night. Tough matchup against South Carolina, but they've beat them before. They can certainly beat them again. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit of Texas football. I love the Texas football spring practice. kind of rolling on. I don't know how much access have you guys had to spring practice there? Have y'all been able to go over there and check it out any, or what's
Yeah,
that look
we
like
get
for you
the
guys?
window is very small. You get a couple of minutes to go over there and watch the beginning of it. Most of it is, you get to catch the tail end of stretching, and then you get to see the not necessarily one-on-one, but the passing drills, the cutting
Mhm.
drills, and everything else. So it's not a lot. You're not seeing one versus one or anything like that, nor do they want us to see that. But
Sure,
you got
sure.
a chance to see some impressive bodies. The way people move, some people that when you walk out to the field, I always call them first off the bus guys, and
Yeah.
you get a chance to see a couple of those and see how their bodies are changing. So yeah, Texas spring practices have been going well. A lot of interesting commentary, obviously, with some of the injuries that are there where they're keeping some guys out. You get a chance to get some guys to the forefront and get an opportunity to be seen right now. So it's been par for the course. Let's just say that what we've been expected to see, we've seen.
Outstanding. We're talking Texas spring football with Mike Hardball Harge of 1300 AM The Zone. Talk to us about those first off the bus guys. Who have been some guys that you've seen and just went, wow, like they didn't look like that last year.
Well, you look at it, and some of them did look like that, but they've even gotten better.
There
The
you go.
Colin Simmons,
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Hill Jr., those guys. But one of the guys that's been getting so much love, and I actually was talking to a former Texas player about this young man earlier today, is Jelani McDonald. He's a guy that has been getting a lot of buzz. Obviously, he played some last year. He got an opportunity to be out there. But this is a guy that is different than everybody else. Like, he jumps off your screen every
Mm-hmm.
time you see him, because I'm not going to call him a Jade Barron type of guy, because he's obviously bigger. He's probably stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But the ability and the athleticism is on par with what Jade has been able to create at that position. You can put him anywhere, and Jelani's been able to play anywhere. Coach Sark talked about the fact that when he first came, they thought they were going to use him at the linebacker position. And then you get him on campus and you're like, wait a minute, this dude is too athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can move him around and we can fill some spaces. And you talk to player after player after player, and they tell you Jelani McDonald is the next man up. So that is somebody that's been very impressive. Another person from the 254 as well is Kobe Black. Kobe
Yep.
Black has done a really, really good job. And he could be the one that you could say will be more in the mold of a Jade Barron,
Mm-hmm.
not to the elite status, but stature and being able to play well on the outside. So those are two guys on defense that I was impressed with. You get onto the offensive side of the ball, obviously Christian Clark getting an opportunity to come back. Obviously, he's not doing too much right now because he's working his way through that injury. But you also want to see some of those other guys on the outside. French and Lockett have
Mm-hmm.
made some noise since they've been on campus. There's going to be some guys that you look at and you say, yeah, they're highly recruited and all that stuff, but they're going to have to make an impact. The biggest question mark for me is it's not truly a question mark. It's just being able to have those guys on the field, and it is the guys on the offensive line. You're
Mm-hmm.
replacing a lot of starts. You a lot of equity is now gone, and
Mm-hmm.
now you got to try to build some of that sweat equity up. Trevor Gooseby is going to be okay. I understand that. DJ Campbell obviously is going to be another guy that's going to be okay, but it's those other ones. What are you going to do at the center position? Is it going to be a Cole Hudson or is it going to be a Connor Robertson? And then you got the inside positions. You're just trying to fill those voids. And obviously Texas don't they reload, man. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? They don't rebuild, they reload. And Texas recruiting has been at the top 5 for the last few years. So they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Jelani McDonald, and one of the things, as soon as you mentioned his name, I kind of thought back to that year that Herman signed the top 3 safeties in the nation,
Yep.
and you know,
DJ
Overshown is one of
Foster,
those guys.
Overthrown. Yep.
Yeah, Overshown's one of those guys. He does end up spinning down to the linebacker position, and you look at Jelani McDonald, and he has a lot of really early DeMarvion Overshown in him from like a
Yep.
physical perspective. But I think you're right. He's way too athletic. I mean, not that linebackers aren't athletic. We're not hating on you, Ant Hill. We're not hating on you, Ty Anthony. You guys are athletes for sure. But those safety guys like that are so long, so rangy, and just have that speed. They're hard to find that are that big, that physical, and can handle the mental side of it, I think, too. And Jelani McDonald's a guy that last year, towards the end of the season, really came on big and played a lot of reps for this Texas defense. So I think bringing him back is huge. And I talked about it in my when I was kind of talking about ranking the position groups headed into spring practice. That safety group, just crazily talented. I mean, Dwayne Akina probably has never had, and he's had some good secondaries, and he has had some good safety groups. I don't know that he's had this much talent in one full back end of a defense like he has headed into this 2025 season. So it'll be really interesting to see, out of all those pieces, who ends up, you know, sort of rising to the top. And you mentioned the recruiting classes and reloading and not having to rebuild. Man, it's almost embarrassing at some of these positions just how many outstanding players they have. And so it'll be good to see. It'll be cool to see what ends up, you know, rising to the top of that defensive secondary. You talked a little bit about some of the wide receivers, especially the young guys, Khalid French. One guy I'm hearing a whole lot about is Parker Livingstone. It seems like Arch and Parker kind of have some kind of McCoy and Shipley thing going on. There's been a lot of noise about that. Obviously a talented kid, and he's a pretty big kid. And I think that's something that might set him apart from some of the other guys as we head into 2025. I mean, he's 6'3", 210, 205, something around in there, has good speed. A lot of these other guys, not so big, obviously really athletic guys. And so what do you think? I mean, have you seen Parker? What do you think of Parker?
Beautiful. He's beautiful. You know, he fits the mold of what you would like to see on the big wide receiver in the way he moves. You talk about he decent speed. He ran a 200. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's got good speed. I said
hey,
decent.
Look, white boys running the 200. You already know what's going down. So he is put himself into that conversation of, okay, I'm gonna make some noise. I'm gonna be one of those guys that is going to be called upon this year. I always equate it to this because he was another guy, Lovejoy, come out. He's talented, a lot of hype around him. And you talked about it, the Jordan Shipley clone. I'm like, no, quit trying to put that just because of his skin tone. Put him somewhere else. Let that dude go out and become himself, because the reality of it is some of these kids that come into college, they need that moment to develop. They need that moment to put on the weight. They know that they need to learn the routes, do some different things, because everybody on your team is good. And some of these guys are elite. So sometimes sitting back and learning a little bit may help you on the long haul. And you got a guy in Chris Jackson, the wide receiver coach for the University of Texas, NFL coach, understands what it looks like. And he's like, hey, man, you need to put on this much weight, work on this, and you're going to be just fine. Now his name is at the top of everybody's list. He's a big-time guy. He's a guy that can go up and high point the ball because of his height. And, again, like Deion say, he can run. He can run.
Yeah, no, he's a hell of an athlete. Looking back at some of his high school film, you just go, how the hell did he do that? And did it at the highest level in Texas, you know, high school football. You know, he didn't come from some small little podunk place either. So yeah, definitely a hell of an athlete, and they're just loaded at wide receiver. One of the bits of news that came out recently, Ryan Wingo, a little bit of a hammy issue. Is that anything serious to worry about, or is it just kind of a tweak type
No,
deal, or do you even know, or are they even saying?
no, they're not saying much, but they're not saying it's bad enough. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's just one of those things, and it just so happens that Texas is not having a spring game, so it's not something like that. And most of the time, when guys like that get hamstrings, is because they've been lifting so much and they're getting a lot bigger. You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's some of those guys that their bodies are trying to adjust to what they've been able to achieve with their weights. And now it's just like whenever you get soft tissue injuries, no need to rush those. You know
Sure.
what Ryan Wingo is. You know how he's shown up. You played him as a freshman. He was already mature enough to be
Mhm.
out there. I don't think it's something that we need to worry about at this time.
Yeah, now he can see apparently.
Yeah,
Apparently he
got
had
that
some
LASIK.
issues seeing. Yeah, so good for that. Good deal on that. A
I need
little bit
some.
of
I
yeah,
need some. You know what
yeah,
I'm
go get you some LASIK, man. Somebody out there, let's get Hard some LASIK
saying? No
surgery.
doubt.
Uh a little bit more on the injuries. You mentioned Christian Clark. I think it's pretty phenomenal that he's even out there running around the way he is coming off an Achilles thing. So I think that's very positive. I've heard really positive things about CJ Baxter and his recovery, which is outstanding news for that running back room. Because to me, headed into spring, that was kind of one of my concerns. Are we going to have enough guys at running back? We know Wisner's good.
Yep.
Nobody's discounting Wisner, a heck of a player, but you got to have some bodies, right? Like you can't in today's football, you're really not running one guy out there and running him to death anymore. It's a whole lot of running back by committee, and the more guys you can bring off the bench, the better. And I think when you talk about a CJ Baxter and you talk about a Christian Clark, those are some of the sort of bigger kids. Christian Clark, maybe not full stature, a giant kid, but his lower half is massive. He's one of those guys that can get that leg drive and go forward when he gets hit. Versus maybe like a Jaden Blue or a Trey Wisner sometimes. Sometimes they're just not that same type of back.
Yeah.
They are what they are and they're great at what they are, but it's not that same type of. I know I hand him the ball, he's getting 2 yards and he's going to fall forward and get those 2 yards type of deal. So I think that's a huge positive thing for this Texas offense. Jordan Washington, a little banged up on the shoulder. He's a guy that I really like. I really liked him out of high school, and I heard a whole lot of good stuff about him in fall camp last year. And you just look at what he did to his body between coming onto campus and showing up this spring. He's been lifting weights. Let's just put it like he's been eating and lifting weights. He goes down with a little bit of a shoulder bang up, but I heard, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I heard that he's gonna have an MRI, or maybe already did, and they're not that worried about it. Like it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. So he'll probably sit out the rest of practice. I would imagine, since again there is no spring game and it's all pretty much individual stuff anyway. Have you heard anything differently about Jordan Washington?
No, but you talked about his body, but the biggest thing is Torrey Becton. Torrey Becton is the guy that has got a lot of plug and pub here lately, got some job offers at other schools and in the NFL, and he decided to stay here at the University of Texas, rightfully so, because why would you want to leave with what you're building?
Right.
And you've been an integral part of the success. I think that a lot of these guys have changed their bodies. They've changed the way that they've approached this. And again, winning is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be a part of a successful program. Obviously, everybody wants their reps, they want to play. But right now, Texas is the hottest thing out there. And it's not just because we're sitting here on your podcast and talking about it. I'm talking about it on the flagship station, AM 1300 The Zone. It's the reality that the nation is paying attention to.
Yeah.
Sark is doing interviews every single week. So why is it that you would want to leave something that has so much momentum as I'm having right now? I was thinking about this. I was thinking about Mark Henry as my co-host on the morning kickoff, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AM 1300 The Zone. And he's been hipping me to the wrestling terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to be watching some wrestling stuff earlier today. and they were talking about the heat, right? You got to make sure you get enough heat. And that means that you're doing really, really well. Well, Texas has all the heat right now.
They do.
So if you're playing for the University of Texas, just like when you were playing for Alabama, you have now forged your way into the heat conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And now schools and pro teams are coming to look at you. So I always look at it that way. And these guys that are having some success in the weight room and putting up numbers and doing different things, they understand what it's all about. And that's why they're sticking around here now.
Yeah, Torrey Beckton. I think I was talking to Eric Henry of Horns 24/7 one night, and we were talking about Torrey Beckton and just how, that strength coach from the spring on through the fall, he's kind of like the head coach. I mean, he's kind of like the main dude because he's the only guy that can be. Yeah, he's the only guy that can be out there with him all the time.
Yep.
And and that's that's where you make your hay. That's where you get bigger, stronger, faster, all that good stuff. And yeah, he has done a hell of a job. I remember just a few years ago, you'd look at these Texas teams playing even like Oklahoma States and TCUs, and you'd be like, man, they just don't look the same. Like these other teams just look bigger. They look more physical.
Correct.
And now when Texas steps on the field, there is 100% no doubt they have got horses to play with anybody. And that's a lot of that is Torrey Beckton. Obviously, a lot of it's those kids buying into all of that and putting the work in and all that good stuff. It's a two-way street, 100%, but they're getting really good leadership out of that strength and conditioning group. Let's switch over to the pro day a little bit. We've talked a little bit about spring. We're here with Mike Hardball Harge, AM 1300 The Zone, talking Texas football. Pro day, one of the biggest things that stood out to me, Jaden Blue gets that 4.2 that he talked about ahead of the combine. I think he ran a 4.2 something and then a 4.3 something, a low 4.3. So obviously displayed that speed. How much money do you think Jaden Blue made himself by popping off those? Those are really hot times. I was about to say pretty hot times. Those are really hot times for a running back. And I think most Texas fans knew he was capable of ripping off some good stuff. Turns out he had a little bit of an injury at the combine. You got some experience with this, like combine versus pro day. What are the scouts looking at? Do they just take it for what it is and go, yeah, he had an injury, now he doesn't? He blew off a really great time. Or do maybe some of those guys look at the combine a little bit, like weigh it a little more than they would a pro day?
Well, to answer your question, I think they look at the pro day if you've gotten better. That means that you didn't rest on your laurels. That means you went back and got to work. You got a guy like Jaden Blue to go out and get a better running time. So you put some time in, you did some different things. I talked about this the other day. I'm sick and tired of the judgment on certain things. Here's the deal. Watch what they did on film. Why is it that all of a sudden we go from the eye in the sky doesn't lie, the film don't lie, the film don't this, the film don't that, and then all of a sudden somebody goes to the pro day and they don't answer a question right, and now all of a sudden, oh my God, this dude is terrible. Oh my God, this guy has not done this. Hold on one second, my dog. Hold on.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, to Harge's point, there is definitely over analyzation, I feel like, that happens. I mean, they bring these guys in and measure like all their fingers and how long their hand is.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I'm just like, man, can the dude play? Like they'll pick some guys based on,
right? Ain't that what we were told?
I mean, you can play football, you can play football. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
When you were watching football, he was like, hey, Sean, I saw you. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Or Sean, you did something great. And it's like, okay, the film don't lie.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. But I think, I think just in sports, I think analytics have their place in sports, obviously. But I think we've gotten to the point where maybe we over-analysis things. We over-analyze things.
Yes.
Like, I don't need to know how long Jaden Blue's fingers are. I just need to know if you hand him the ball, what he does with it. I don't need to know a lot of shit about these guys. Like, when they strap pads on, can they go play football? And I think sometimes they kind of, I think they definitely do. They don't they overanalyze this stuff, and they probably miss out on some really, really good players in a lot of cases just because they're focused on some of the wrong stuff. But I think that's the world we live in, unfortunately. And so for these guys that are trying to maybe work their way into the draft, or for guys that are definitely getting drafted, trying to move up in the draft, a lot of that silly stuff it seems to get weighed pretty heavily. And I think for a guy like Jaden Blue to come into pro day, improve really good on his time from the combine is big time. I think another guy that didn't, I don't think Silas Bolden got invited to the combine. I think he had a really good pro day, and he probably made some money, and probably a lot of people are thinking he might have got himself into the draft picture now. So probably before that pro day, he was looking at definitely get invited to a lot of places and being able to decide where he wanted to go from there. But now he might end up getting drafted, and I think that's great because Silas Bolden was a guy that he didn't get a ton of run last year, but he was always doing something when he got in the game. And you look at the way the NFL has kind of valued returners a lot in the last couple decades. I think he's a guy that could go into the NFL for sure and have a nice career just returning kicks.
Yeah. And now that they've changed the rule and you're going to actually have more kicks and have an opportunity to return it, I think this is going to be a special year for those guys that can come in and be an integral part to the success of a team. Two guys that I was very impressed with at Pro Day. Number one, Baron Sorrell. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think that he has proven to be a guy that each year he's gotten better and better and better and better. I'm not going to put him on the Taquan Graham, lifespan, because Taquan's making his money in the league. He's doing really, really good. But I'm telling you right now, Baron Sorrell made him so much money on the bench press and what he's been able to do, the way his body, you look at him and you're like, you can see that he put the work in, and he knows he had a job interview the other day. So he came in with his Sunday best. He didn't put that workout in. And another guy that was impressive to me was Mo Blackwell. Mo Blackwell was a guy that didn't get a chance to go to the combine, but when you saw him and you walked into that room, you recognized him right away. And he is somebody that I expect to hear his name called as well. He's going to sneak up in somebody's team, and he's going to be a special teams player that is going to make a ton of money because he's going to be that good, and he's going to find himself on some third down packages because he is one hell of a player.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Mo Blackwell, kind of a guy that just kind of got depth charted out from just a ton of playing time at Texas, but when he did play, he played pretty well. So a lot of guys like that on the, David Benda's a guy too that, I forgot who I was talking with, but I was talking about, just some guys that might sneak up on some people from an NFL perspective. And I really liked that. It was on, I was talking to Zay. That's what it was. I was talking to Zay a couple weeks ago, and David Benda's a guy that I really like, man. I've liked him all season. He just does like the stuff you're supposed to do to go be an inside linebacker. He likes to bang heads. He can run pretty well. He doesn't have that prototypical height that a lot of these NFL teams are looking for, but we've seen it before where guys that just didn't have that, they got in the NFL and they just started kicking people's ass and they stuck. And I think David Benda is a guy that can stick. You mentioned Baron Sorrell. He went out to the Senior Bowl and just absolutely dominated that thing. Yeah. Like every single clip out of the Senior Bowl was Baron Sorrell just kicking somebody's ass in individual drills or out in the scrimmage, all that stuff. And his body, you nailed it. You see him to me, he's like the only other guy that I saw on Texas's field and just went, holy shit, was Colton Vasek. Those two dudes, just for whatever reason, man, their bodies are just, they are blessed. Let's just put it that way. Blessed genetically. And you're right about Baron. He has gotten better every single year. Probably a little low on the sack numbers to be like that dynamic, sort of all pro type guy. But how many guys are all pros? And if he keeps working, he can get that. You know, it's not something that he can't do. It's just he just hasn't yet. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see where Barron Sorrell ends up. A lot of Longhorns that didn't get invited to the combine are going to stick with NFL teams just because of that strength and conditioning we've talked about and the coaching. You can argue about who's the best staff, and you've got points either way. But Texas is certainly one of the top 5 coaching staffs in the country from a football perspective. So these guys are getting really good training. Good to see a lot of Longhorns do well at the pro day. Real quick, let's kind of get way off the wall. I saw a story, Coastal Carolina, talking about they're going to just give away concessions this year at their football games. What's up with that, man? I like it. I mean, I don't
know if I'm going to trust stuff that's being given away.
That's fair. That is fair. That's fair. But as long as you grab just like the popcorn or something, like, you probably can't go too wrong with some popcorn and a soda or something.
Yeah. So my question is with that, and I'll deep dive into it and I need to, but if I'm getting something for free,
where am I paying for it? Where else am I paying for
There's something else that's being bought into that package. And what is the limitations? There has to be a limit. You can't walk in there and say, give me all the nachos. Give me, I got 4 people with me. We need 10 pizzas. No, you can't go in there and do that. I'm just curious to the limitations in which you're going to be strapped with.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And it's got to be, I mean, I just imagine not a lot of people come to Coastal Carolina.
Ding. That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, how many people are not coming to that game?
Yeah. And, I think concessions are kind of a big deal, like is from a revenue perspective. Like, absolutely. I mean, the upcharge on concessions is pretty ridiculous. I think we all know that. So for them to give it away in any amount just means like we're hurting. We just need some people to buy some tickets and come sit their butts in the stands and hopefully buy some alcohol or something. Because you talk about an upcharge, there's a really big upcharge on the alcohol. So maybe they eat and decide they need to put some drink on it or something. It'll be interesting to like hear the details of that. We probably won't till the season starts to happen. Exactly. Somebody will talk about it. But yeah, I thought that was funny today when I saw that free concessions at a daggum college football game. Kind of maybe a low
pro Carolina. They ain't doing that at the University of Texas.
Well, you know what? They won't do that. They won't do it at baseball because they generally have a pretty good baseball program.
Yeah.
So another kind of like off the wall thing that I was looking at today is this April 7th NCAA settlement deal with the whole revenue sharing, roster limits, and all that stuff. It sounds like the NCAA is going to basically say, you guys can revenue share, and there's no more limits on scholarships, but there are going to be limits on roster, and you figure out what that looks like. And apparently there's some sort of cap on the revenue sharing, a certain percentage or something like that.
I think it's 20.3 million is the money that is shared through all sports. And you decide on who's going to be who's going to be the homestead, so to speak, and who's going to be the top dog. Obviously, as well as I do, football is always going to be
football at most colleges is going to get that. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's going to be a juggling act for everybody else that's involved with it. Look, here's the deal. There's enough money at all of these schools. It's just about how you want to distribute it. Sark talked about how they managed the NIL not too long ago in an interview with Colt McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done a really good job with it. Now, some may say I'm shorted on money. Some may say I'm worth this much. But your playing time is your worth, right? Like, so if you're not playing that much, don't come in here asking me for all this money because, hey, bro, you're not doing that much.
Right.
You're going to get an opportunity, and if you don't take the most of your opportunities, then it is what it is.
Yeah, do you think so let's say this ruling comes in and the NCAA does say, we're going to do this revenue share piece. We're going to do this roster limit, not scholarship limit. Do you think that's a better step in the right direction for college sports? Because I know I've talked about it on the show. I'm sure you guys have talked about it. there's this debate: is college football and college sports in general kind of getting off the handle? Is it going a little bit off the chain on all the money that's flowing around, and we got guys quitting halfway through the season because their NIL deal wasn't what they thought it was going to be? Do we think this is a step in the right direction, or is this more just like NCAA, CYA, cover my ass shenanigans?
Well, two things. Number one, if you promise the guy some money and you don't pay him, I'm not mad at the dude. Yeah, I'm not mad at the dude. Handle your business. Don't promise him something you can't deliver to on. And if you don't have that set aside, because just like in the NFL, you have to have that money sitting somewhere to be able to say, I'm going to be able to float this. So in that revenue, this situation, that's on that school. But I think it's more into the fact of this is going to be more of a collective bargaining agreement. I think there's going to be more headed towards the NFL model. I firmly believe that college football needs a commissioner. I think you need to have those power, whatever it may be. If it's 2, 3, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that you have the haves and the have-nots, and not taking anything away from the have-nots. But we're going to see the same 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that are going to be in the middle of the conversation the entire year. And then we're going to see some other teams that are not going to be able to be in the conversation. So if you want to create this mega conference, super conference, NFL type model, I think we're headed closer than that than we are trying to keep the NCAA employed. The NCAA is around for what we're dealing with right now, the Final Four, March Madness, and all of that. After that, see you later. Because they don't give out the trophy.
Right.
Think about that in college football. You watch baseball, they're hoisting it up. You watch college basketball this weekend, hoisting it up. Swimming and diving, hoisting it up. Softball, football, they're not even the ones giving the trophy.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think NCAA is about to lose their stranglehold on college football for good. The debate rages about whether that's good, bad. It probably could go both ways depending on what happens when that happens. And like you said, having a college football commissioner, there's been all this talk about the Big Ten and the SEC sort of splitting off and kind of doing their own thing. It'll be really interesting to see over the course of the next 10, 15 years, like what that ends up all looking like. I think in the short term, the real winner of all of this scholarship thing or roster limit thing is baseball and softball, man. They just got a huge bump in what they're able to do for kids. I mean, for baseball, it was 11.5.
11.7.
Yeah, it wasn't even. Yeah, okay, so barely over 11.5. Not even 12 full scholarships for a roster. Like in the SEC, if you don't know this, you can travel 30 guys in the SEC for baseball, but the roster 40, 45, maybe something around in there for baseball. Now they're going to be able to give out 30 something scholarships, which is huge.
Beautiful.
And it's great for the game because I think you have all these guys that are first round, second round draft pick. Hard, you were a second round draft pick. If back in the day you had the chance to go, I could go to pro baseball and go in the second round and get my check, or I can go to any Division I college baseball program basically I want to go to, and I'm going to get paid and I'm going to get my school paid for. That makes that decision a lot tougher for you, doesn't it?
It wouldn't have made it even tough. It would have made it right here at the University of Texas, where I would have been like everybody else that went to the University of Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not necessarily immortalized, but definitely part of the lure of Texas baseball and with trips to Omaha, but having fun walking around campus, dealing with the football, basketball, softball, track, field. I mean, just everything of being a student athlete at a university like this. Yeah, man, it would have been different for a lot of guys. There was a lot of guys that were with me and after me that probably would have done the same thing. You know, there was a guy, Calvin Murray was one of the best to ever play at the University of Texas, and he was drafted in the first round twice. You know what I'm saying? So, but he got an opportunity to come to the University of Texas. He done some amazing things. He was my recruit leader. I still talk to Calvin to this day. We hang out. We watched the first game of the season together at
Nice.
UT at home. So, it's just those types of moments you will never be able to share again. And that's why I think a lot of kids are coming back, just like in college basketball and football. You saw a guy, Hunter Dickinson. He knows exactly who he is at Kansas, got awarded a 7th year in college as an NBA 7'2" player.
Yeah.
Knows he's not that good to go to the NBA.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hang around in college, make a lot of money, and enjoy the college lifestyle.
Yeah. I don't want to be a hater.
I am a hater when it comes
I don't hate the kids for taking advantage of it, but what the hell are we doing, NCAA? Why do we have 27-year-old kids still
be
playing?
A hater, man. Be a hater.
Bowman, like that dude that played quarterback at Oklahoma State. Why is that dude 30 years old and still playing freaking college football?
Sam's on his second team in the NFL after playing 3 years in Indianapolis. Now he's headed to Denver, and yet this dude is still in college trying to play quarterback.
Yeah. Like you're just not that good, dude. Like go be a salesman or something. Whatever it is, we're like,
you've been in school that long, you should be a doctor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you should have some sort of PhD.
Pre-med. I'm in pre-med right now.
Yeah. All right, we were talking baseball, so let's hop on into Texas baseball. A really good start to the whole season, really good start to SEC play, 8-1. They've got 2 road sweeps, which is basically unheard of. Jim Schlossnagle, no sweeps his entire time on the road at Texas A&M. Yep. He's already got 2 road sweeps as a Texas Longhorn coach. So doing really good. We're on cruise control. We go to Missouri, get smacked with the injury bug a little bit. You saw Kuda get hit in the hand, his throwing hand. Obviously, he's better. He played last night. A-Rod had the little side of the hand. I forgot what it's called. Hamate bone. And I still do not know what he hit. Like, was it on a bat or did he hit it on? Do we know?
I have the hook of the hamate bone. I've had surgery on that.
Okay.
And it is it's not fun because
I bet not. It's a real sensitive part of the hand.
Yeah, it's where you hold the bat, and it's either from a check swing or swinging hard or something like that. And what that does is it frays. If you go back and you look at the history of it, Jose Canseco has had it. Multiple players in MLB have had it throughout their time. And it is from the force of the bat being able to stop, swing, check swing, do everything with it. And it's just that little hook. There's a little hook on there, and that can fray a little bit. It can cause nerve damage too.
Sure.
So depending on what happens with it, and what they want to do with it, it will let you know if he's going to be able to finish the season or if he's going to go ahead and have a surgery to get it replaced. Excuse me. I don't think that I think he can come back and play with it. And then at the end of the season, he might have to do something with it. So I think that he will be okay to get that done. But yeah, talking about this baseball team and what they've been able to do, going on the road, sweeping in impressive fashion. Will Gasparino is hot as fish grease right now.
Yeah, he is.
Doing everything he possibly can and seeing the ball so big. But they got a huge challenge this weekend. I know, and you understand this. I heard people talking about, man, Texas lost to Texas State. That's 4 times in the last 4 years. All that stuff. Listen, it's a Tuesday game. It don't matter. It matters. It matters more for Texas State than it does for Texas.
Absolutely.
And this is not football. This is baseball. You're going to play a lot more games than you're going to do in football. So, yes, if that would have happened in a football game, absolutely.
That would have been terrible.
Lose your mind. Lose your mind, folks. But in baseball, don't worry about it. Get back in. Texas has bigger dreams and aspirations than beating Texas State on a Tuesday night. No disrespect to Texas State because they have done an unbelievable job throughout their time with Coach Trout. But the reality of it is make sure that everybody's healthy going into this weekend against Georgia. I personally will be on all the calls this weekend.
Nice.
For radio. I'll be on 103.1 on Friday night FM. I will be on 1300 Saturday and Sunday on the call. So I'll be there watching the Georgia Bulldogs as they come in to take on the Texas Longhorns.
Outstanding. Yeah, you touched on something that you see Twitter and people just kind of lose their minds and get, I don't like losing. Like last night when that game went the way it did, I was like, damn, this sucks. You don't want to have to deal with the small boy chatter and all that stuff. And it was going on Twitter hard today and late last night. But to your point, man, they threw so many weekend pitchers last night just to try to get that win, and they still almost lost it. Even though Texas played like absolute shit in that 8th inning, they still almost came. I mean, they were 5 inches away from tying that game, essentially.
Absolutely.
That line drive is 5 inches higher. Maybe even, depending on what happens when it gets to the outfield, we might be talking walk-off. So yeah, not a big deal. That's a scrappy team, and all credit to them, like you said.
Absolutely. Coach Stroud does a hell of a job there, man.
Yeah, and we talked about it on the show Monday night. I was like, they're going to come in hacking. There's they have nothing to lose. Come in, take hacks, and whatever happens. They got the big hit, and they got the game. So congratulations to them. But it has absolutely zero to do with what might happen this weekend.
Right.
It's not football. So yeah. So let's talk about this Georgia team. We had Olivia Sayer from Dogs 247 on Monday night, 24/7 on Monday night. Really knowledgeable baseball gal, by the way. She let us know about this team, and they are an offensive juggernaut. It doesn't take much. You look at the paper, you can see it. She echoed all that, but she did say pitching can kind of get a little squirrely on Georgia sometimes. Like they've had some games this year where they've given up 5-6 runs in the first inning of games, and then they just slug their way back into it. I wonder, coming to the Dish, a lot bigger field than they've probably played on most of this season, going up against this Texas pitching staff. So Georgia has 79 home runs on the season, which is absurd at this point of the season. And Texas is only giving up.
Majority of them came last night.
Yeah, and it may be more now. It actually is more now because we talked about that on Monday. Yeah. So they're over 80 now. Texas only giving up 14 home runs all season. Something's going to have to give on that one. I like pitching, man. I like the matchup of pitching against hitting, especially when you got a bunch of guys you can just get in there and they're going to throw a bunch of strikes. They're going to fill up the zone. They can keep guys off balance. So I think this series going to be really interesting. You know what I think, Harge? I think someone is going to walk out of the Dish on Sunday really questioning how good they really are. And I don't know if it's us. I don't know if it's Georgia. I picked Texas to win. I think the Texas pitching, like I said, if they can stay on time with their pitching and Schloss can use those guys the way he's used them these first 3 SEC series, I really like their chances of taking 2 or 3 from this Georgia team. What do you see out of this series, Harge?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I'm with you on the pitching aspect of it. Starting pitching for the University of Texas has been spot on. Friday and Saturday, these guys are always dialed up, ready to go, and that's what you expect to see. But here's the one thing that I always try to go back to. Wes Johnson is one hell of a pitching coach. Yeah. He's the head coach of that team. He was the mastermind of what LSU was able to do with Paul Skeens. But, I mean, you and I could be masterminds with Paul Skeens. But you start looking at it and what he's been able to do. I don't think he's going to run guys out there that can't pitch. If you go back and you look at their starters, they've had different starters throughout the year all season long. So he's been able to do what Schlossnagels was able to do on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And that is try to find guys that can go out there and throw strikes. A lot of it has to do with matchups and the ability to exceed at those matchups. So I expect this to be a knockdown, drag-out, top 5 matchup of 2 teams that have had success early in the season, and I expect them to have success this weekend. I think whoever wins this series will win 2 out of 3. Won't be a sweep.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a sweep either. I'm going to put you on the spot, Harge. Who do you think takes the series this weekend?
Texas takes the series. Texas takes every series. That's just what it is. That's how you walk out there.
That's
But I
right.
expect them to show up and be ready to play. I know everybody's still talking about Texas State, but Texas has already moved on to Georgia, and Coach will let us know what the plan is going into the weekend tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. on AM 1300 The Zone.
That's right. Every Thursday at 8 a.m., Coach Sloss is on AM 1300 The Zone with Harge and the Mark Henry. So y'all definitely put a reminder on your calendar for that. I listen to it almost every Thursday. Good stuff every time. I think keys going into this series real quick before we get out of here. I watched the guys on Tuesday, and I think, you got Ballou out, you got A-Rod out. I think guys were just pressing at the plate. I think guys were just trying to be the guy instead of just trying to be one of the guys. And there's a lot of dudes on this lineup up and down it, even with Ballou out, even with A-Rod out. There's a lot of guys that can hit the baseball. I think they just kind of got to calm their asses down at the plate a little bit. Obviously clean up that defense a little bit, which I don't think will be a problem because it was pretty rough Tuesday night in a couple spots. The pitchers, I thought, were making pitches, but you can't ask pitchers to get 4, 5, 6 outs an inning. If you get into that position, you're going to be in trouble. So yeah, I mean, I think if the guys can play, I mean, they're going to have some errors. I think that's almost just today's baseball. These guys are hitting the ball so hard that the infielders are going to have some errors. You limit the damage from those things and just quit expanding the zone. I felt like last night, man, they just swung at a lot of pitches that were way out of the zone, just got themselves a little amped up, wanting to be the dude instead of just letting it kind of come to us. What are your thoughts on that? I've never been a hitter at anywhere close to that level. So is that like is there any validity to that, or is it just sometimes just good pitching? Was last night just good pitching, or did you feel like guys were pressing at the plate?
It could have been a little bit of both, but here's the biggest thing. When you got guys in scoring position, you can't leave 11 guys on base.
That's a damn fact.
I mean, that is the easiest way to sum this all up. You don't have to be a big hitter. You just got to be a good situational hitter. And Texas situationally didn't execute. Now, this is something that obviously Coach Schlossnagle understands. This is Noah Kane and everybody that's involved on the offensive side of the ball. They're going to be just fine. It is going back to the drawing board. To your point, don't press. Get yourself something you can handle and deliver when guys are in scoring position, because you can't leave 11 people on base. If you do, what happened last night is going to happen more often than not.
That's right. So yeah, the Texas Longhorns first pitch 6:30 Friday night against those Georgia Bulldogs. They're top 5 in all the polls. I don't know where they are in all the polls. It's going to be a big time matchup, just like that one was with LSU a couple weeks ago. Make sure to watch those Lady Horns. Make sure to get them on the screen. If you got 2 screens, watch them both. Yeah. That is it for this episode of the Cheap Seats. You guys check us out Monday night for the Bullpen with Sean, Mark, and Zach. We do it every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. We'll recap the weekend. Thank you, Hardball Harge from AM 1300 The Zone. Y'all check out his show every morning on 1300 AM The Zone at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It is the morning kickoff with the Mark Henry, the WWE guy, man, the big world's strongest man guy.
Right.
Good show. Y'all check them out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Y'all follow us, like us, subscribe us. All the information's down there at the bottom of the screen. Y'all have a good night. Y'all get hooked.